शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोर् श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतश्चार्थेषु भिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, chapter 31, beginning from verse number 22. These are teachings of Lord Kapila to his mother Devu, and he is talking about the birth of a living entity, but a different type of birth, not the birth of Jesus Christ. So he says that when the living being is in the womb, then he suffers, and there are some rare souls who remember the Lord in the womb and they pray to him. And we read the prayers in the previous verses. But in final verse he said that he does not want to come out and take birth, because the world is full of Maya. But anyway, no one can stay inside the womb permanently. So Kapila describes after that. He says, Evam kritamati garbhe dasamasyastvan rishihi sadyah kshipati avachinam prasute suti marutaha. So he says that in this way, when the rishi or this devotee soul who has prayed to the Lord when he is 10th month old and he is in the garb, then sadhya kshipati avachinam prasutte suti marute. There is a special type of wind which is called suti maruta, wind for the birth. So that air pushes the baby out. That's how the baby comes out. So then he is thrown out suddenly. Antena usrishta sahasa kritva vakashira aturah viniskramati krishena niruchvaso hatasmriti. when he is suddenly thrown out like that, then and his head is out and he is troubled and he comes out with great difficulty and his breathing stops and he loses his memory.
After he is out.
Yeah. So this commentary here. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti says that evam kritva garbha eva ushitva. So in this way, while living in the womb, Krishnam bhajami iti nishyata materiyena, who has fixed his mind that I will worship Lord Krishna, sahastuvan san risireva bhavet. Says that by praying to the Lord, he becomes rishi, sage. न तस्य गर्भात् निश्रितस्य पुनः संसारे इति भावः. The meaning is that he is not going to fall into the material bondage when he comes out from the womb. So in this verse, he actually makes two divisions. Basically, this is how he explains. That first part of this verse is talking about the person or the soul who is praying to the Lord. And the other second part is talking about the person who was being described before, who is suffering all the miseries in the womb. So these are two things combined together, although it looks like a description of the same, but it is not. Yastu prastutah purvadhyayata eva prakranto jivas tasya duravastha shuyatam. So Kapila Dev says that this person he will become a rishi, and the one which he said I was talking before, he started speaking these prayers, says here the miserable condition of that one now. So the second half of the verse is describing the one who was being described earlier, that he is inside the womb, he is being eaten by the worms and suffering all the hot and spicy food eaten by mother and so on. So now it is his turn. Other one is released. He has no problem, he prays to God, he is free and he becomes a rishi. So he is like Jesus Christ. अवाचीनम अधो गच्छन्तं सांसारिकम सूति हेतु मारुते प्रसुप्ते सद्यो 10 मासीय क्षण एव क्षिपति. So he says that this Suti hetu Maruta, this air or this wind which helps to deliver the baby, then it is throwing him down in the 10th month. Tena yastuvan rishi bhavet satu suti marut kshepam vinayeva garbhat nigachati iti artha. So he says that one who becomes rishi or one who becomes realized, then he does not come by the air pressure. He comes by himself. So that means everybody does not suffer in the same way, nor everybody take birth in the same way. In Sri Sampradaya they have these great saints who are called Alvars, and one of them is Shatkopan. So I was told that he got the name Shatkopan. Shat means this wind and Kopan means angry. That when it was time for him to take birth, then this wind was coming to him. So he got angry at the wind and he said, "Get lost, I don't need you." And that's why his name was given as Shutkopan. So there he also says that one who is praying to the Lord and becomes Rishi, Yastuan Rishir Bhavet, Satu Suti Marut, Shepam Vinayeva Garbhat Nirgachati, Tirthalanti. That he comes out without being troubled or thrown by this wind. अत्र एक एव जीवो यदि विवक्षितः स्यात् तदा पूर्वार्धे अपि कृतमति मतिमिति एवं द्वितीयान्तानि एव पदानि प्रयुज्येरन् इति संदर्भ. So actually Jiva Goswami is the one who has given this idea of not every soul has this remembrance, and in his commentary he writes. So previously also he has quoted him, and here also he says that if you see the grammar, it says evam krit mati garbhe dasmasya sutuvan rishi. Here the first case is used. Krit mati means one who has fixed his mind. He, while praying, he comes out. So here it is made as a subject. But in the second half it says Sadhya Kshipati Avachinam. Then the second case is used. He is made an object and he is thrown out by the wind. So he becomes the object. So he says if it was a talk of the same Jiva, then instead of using the word Kritamatihi, you would have used Kritamatim. As here it is Avachinam. But because there it is the first case, which means that he is the subject or nominative case, and in the second half it is the accusative case. So that shows that this is a talk of two different jivas. So that is a very fine observation made by Jiva Goswami. And that's why he gives this comment that one is coming out by the power of this wind and the other is coming naturally by himself. And hataha smriti mritasyaham punarjata ityadi pur janma anusandhana lakshana yasas. So if you remember that he had made 3 divisions, that one who just remembers the suffering that I died, I took birth, other one who remembers his yoga practice and meditates, and one is devotee. So this Hatha Smriti, one who loses the memory, is this one. So now he forgets everything about all the pains he has suffered. And this is because of the process through which the birth is given. There is so much pressure that it makes him unconscious and the breathing stops. Then patito bhuvi asam mutre vishtha bhuriva chestate roruyati gate jnane vipritam gatim gataha. So when he falls on the ground or wherever the delivery happens, then he moves like a worm in the stool. Vishtabhu. Because he is in all this urine and his own stool and all the blood which comes out along with it, he is lying in that. So he is just moving in it. And roruyati, and then he cries. Gate jnane vipritam gatim gate, because he has lost his consciousness, knowledge, and attained the contrary position, means he is in ignorance now. So this is the situation. Vishtha bhu krimiriva roruyate. should be Atmanekali. So he is like a wall. Why are you laughing?
We have such a romantic thing about babies. Like a worm.
ज्ञाने प्राचीने गते sati vipritam agyatva lakshanam. So now he has no knowledge and he gets ignorance. Bhakta jivasyapi vastu swabhavyad abalyam praya jnanam avritam tishtati. So one may raise a question that this person did not remember anyway. So what is that he loses his memory? So he said that even those who are devotees who have prayed in the womb when they take birth, then in the childhood their knowledge is also usually covered. And it is later on that they may meet a sadhu or a saint or some other incident, then the knowledge gets revived and then they start again. But in the childhood they also forget. So that is the significance. So he comments that vastu swabhavyad abalyam. And this is why it happened, that this is just the nature of childhood, otherwise he will not behave like a child. And it will become another problem for the parents, because then he will behave like a grown-up person. So that he remains normal in the eyes of the parents. Like Krishna also, when he was born with 4 hands and he was talking. But then he became a baby. And he became a baby just like a real baby, crying and feeling hungry and needing help, lying on the bed. Then he was growing slowly. But it's not that he is just a baby, he is a grown-up person, but this is what he was doing. Every day he was growing little bit. Although he is grown up, he is the father of everybody, and yet he was acting like that. That's why Janma Karam Samay Divyam. So he is Divya, divine. So Vastu Sabhavya. Abalyam Praya Jnanam Avritam. So he says their knowledge also remains covered. Tatah kinchin matra satsangena udbuddha purva sanskaram bhaktya bhagavad prapti. And then later on, even a little association with some devotee or holy person, then these samskaras are immediately coming out. And then he engages in devotion by the power of the previous samskaras, and he attains the Lord. So this is also described in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita by Krishna. And Arjuna is asking this question, that what happens to a person, a yogi who does not complete his path. So then Krishna explains that he takes a good birth. Suchinam srimatam gehe yoga avijayate. Atva yogi nam eva kule bhavati janam yadidrisham. Or he is born in the family of great yogis. And there also he will remember that Sabda Brahmati Vartate, he transcends even the theoretical knowledge, and his mind is forcibly attracted. So there are so many stories of such people, how they suddenly hear one word or meet somebody and then they give up everything, take to spiritual life. So this is a different story. Now listen to the plight of the real baby, especially one who is born in a poor family, because what is being described, usually this is not in well-to-do or even medium-class family, but such situation can be seen in the poor families still, at least in India. So parachandam na vidusha pushyamano janena sa anabhipretam apannah pratyakyatum manishwarah. The biggest problem of the baby is that nobody understands him. So he says that he is nourished by those people who do not know what he wants. So they are forcing on him something. And he is helpless. So he accepts. But whether he really wants it, we don't know. So then, because of this anabhipretam apanna pratyakhatum, he gets what he does not want and he cannot even deny it because he has no power to speak. This is his problem. So he has given a very nice example here. It says, Parasya chandam abhiprayam avidusha. It says he is being nourished by people who don't understand the mind of others. Stanyartham rodane udar vyatham prakalpe nimbrasam payata. That he is crying, and he is crying because he wants to drink milk. But the mother thinks that he is having a stomach ache. So she gives him some bitter medicine, like the juice of neem tree. So the poor guy cannot help it. He has to take it by force and cry. Or he may get these days a shot in the arm. He doesn't need this, but now you have to get all kinds of, what they call this? Vaccination. So all this he has to go through. Nobody asks him that do you really need it. You have no choice. And then other is that Udar Vyathayam Rodane Kshudham Prakalpe Stannam Payata. And when he is actually having a stomach ache and he is crying, then the mother feeds him milk, thinking that he is hungry. So this is how he suffers. Because the child only knows one thing, crying. So you have to understand everything from the crying only. Whether he is hungry, he is sick, he is this, he is that. But if you don't understand, then there is nothing you can do. Swastanyam payata janena matradina neshena samartha roruyate itim sangha. So he basically all the time he is crying. Shaito asuchi paryanke jantu svedaj dushite nesha kanduyane anganam asanothana cheshtane. Then he is lying down in a bed which is not very clean. And not only that it is not clean, asuchi, paryanke, but it has got some animals. What do you call them?
Bugs.
Bugs, khatmal. And they are biting him. So what can he do? So these are called bed bugs. And they are called swedaja. They are born from the sweat or from the heat. So these jantu, they bite him. And he is not even able to scratch his back because he is lying on the back and they bite, and when they bite feel like scratching. So kanduyane nesha kanduyane anganam asanotham chesne, because he cannot move from his seat, he cannot even turn his side, and therefore he suffers a lot. And tudanti amatvacham dansa masaka matkunadayaha rudantam vigata jnanam kramaya krinikam yatha. So these different types of worms, bugs, mosquitoes, gnats, they all bite his what you call very fine skin. Ama tvacha. Ama means very tender skin. Because he's just born. As child grows, then the skin becomes hard and can tolerate more. But now the skin is very tender and the mosquitoes bite. So this is actually the plight. You go to Indian villages, the child is lying on the bed, there are mosquitoes flying, everything. There is no mosquito net there. And at night they bite you, you may even see their face all full of bites. So Tudanti, they trouble him again and again, and all he does is that he can only cry, because there is nothing else he knows. Rudantam vigata jnanam, he has no other knowledge, he has forgotten everything. And krimeya krimikam yatha. So just as the bigger worms eat the smaller worms, like that here the smaller worms eat the bigger one. So he is the food for all this. From they also have to suffer. So ama komla tvagyasya tan krimikam shudra krimi. So he is like a small worm, and these small worms are like the big worms for him. So they eat. Itevam shashvam bhuktva dukkham pogandameva alabdha vipsito jnanad iddhamanyu sucharpitaha. Then he grows. So you may think that when he grows, then situation will improve. But it does not improve. So in this way he passes his childhood, and then he comes to the Paganda, or from babyhood to childhood. I don't know what is the translation for Paganda. Means between 5 and 10, before one becomes teen. So he says in this also he is troubled, because he wants to do many things he cannot do, and he cannot get the things which he desires, because everybody, the parents especially, control the child very much in this age. They are the boss and he has to listen to them. So when the child is small, then the parents always want him to speak. They are very happy that he speaks few words, if he stammers and says something. But when he grows up, and they are always telling him to shut up. So this is a paradox. So somebody once was telling a joke. He said, it was only when I was 10-year-old then I realized that shut up was not my name. So he is very much controlled. So lalayat panchvarshani, 10 varshani tu tadayat, prapte shodashe vatre, putram mitra vadacharet. Chanakya Pandit says that till 5-year-old you pamper the baby, and from 5 to 15 you temper him. Pampering is over, tampering begins. So then you control. Once he is 16, then treat him like a friend. So this is the age which he is talking about. He is calling it as Paganda, till he becomes youth. And because every parent has a dream about the child, that I want my son to be like this. Whatever the father was not able to accomplish, or the mother is not able to accomplish in his and her own life, then they want that their child should do that. Because Atma va jayate putram. And the son, and also these days daughters, they are not behind anymore. They are considered as one's own self. And the Veda is saying that Atma va putra nama asi. That the son, indicative of daughter also now, is like one's own self has taken another birth. So it is a desire that if father wanted to travel to different countries, could not do, and then the daughter is doing, then father is happy. Right? So this is every father or every mother has desire like that. So for that obviously they want to train him, but this may not be the desire of the son or the daughter. If it matches, that's very good. But when it does not match, then there is always a problem. So today there was very interesting news that there was one boy from Aligarh, I think, nearby. So he was kidnapped maybe 2 weeks ago. And he came from a very wealthy family. And the people who had kidnapped him, they were demanding 1 crore rupees as, what is it called? Ransom. So 1 crore, 100 lakh means 10 million rupees they were asking. So father was even arranging for this money because he's rich and he wants his son back. But he went and complained in the police, and because he's a rich person, so special task, STF, special task force, special police, they were deputed to trace him because they were making call from his mobile. And finally they caught the boy. And when he was interrogated, it was all prearranged that he will be kidnapped by his friends. He told his friends, then do like that. He was actually going in a car with a chauffeur driven car, and told the driver that you go and get a bottle of Coke from this shop. When he went to get the Coke, then he drove away with the car. And then they could not find him. The car was abandoned somewhere. And then he went with the friends here and there, moving. And then with his mobile, the friends were calling that we have kidnapped your son, give us this much money, and blah blah. So he told all this story. And why he did that? Because although he comes from a rich family and he gets enough pocket money, but this was not enough for him. So he was enjoying like anything. And he had borrowed 84 lakh and spent it going to clubs, whatever nonsense he was doing. And because he comes from a rich family, so people were giving him money, and he was even borrowing by taking on interest. But now how to give it back? So he thought he will squeeze it out from his own father. So you can imagine the clash between father and son. So this is the problematic. So now he has to go to prison. सहदेहेन मानेन वर्धमानेन मन्युना करोति विग्रहं कामी कामेष्वन्ताय च आत्मना. And then in the previous verse it was also said that when his desires are not fulfilled, then he gets very angry. And because he is angry and he cannot actually show his anger because he is junior, then he gets frustrated. But when he grows up, then he starts also getting more angry. So sahadehena manena vardhamanena manyuna. As his body is growing, then his pride is also growing. Pride also grows with the body. If your body is very tall and strong, then you have a big pride. If you get diarrhea for a few days, And your pride also goes little down. Isn't it? No? You have experienced it? How the pride goes along with the diarrhea? So there is a relationship. So when the body, because when you are young, your body is strong and you are growing, then very proud. You jump here, you jump from there, jump from the roof, punch somebody. You are not humble, ready to fight. So he says, then because of this pride and because of desires and being under the influence of the desires, then he makes enmity with other people who are also like that. And this is for his own destruction. Because he has pride, then he is with young people, they have pride, and then there is a clash. So if their desires are not fulfilled, they may fall in love with the same boy or girl, and then they get enemies. Also there was a story that some boy from higher class kidnapped the boy from the lower class because of some scuffle and then shot him. So all these things are becoming very common these days. So this is what is being described here. And this obviously he says that it is for one's own destruction. Antaya cha atmana. Because you do some crime like this out of anger. Anger makes you mad. You lose your thinking power, your discrimination. Then you do some criminal, illegal, forbidden act. Later on you are caught. And then you are in trouble. You may have to go to juvenile court or maybe put in some rehabilitation center. So this is the meaning that Antaya Chatma. Ajnanam darshayati. See the next verse, there is no commentary. So bhutaihi panchabhir arabdhe dehe deha buddho sakrit aham mamitya sadgraha karoti kumatirmatim. So now he has kumati or improper intelligence. Then his body, which is growing with the five material elements, he gets false identification with this and always has this feeling of I and my out of ignorance. So Panchvirarabdhe Deha Dehi Abudho Asakrit. He is Abudha, does not have proper knowledge, and Asakrit Aham Mameti Asangraha. So he gets this improper thoughts or ideas that I am this body. Because when body is very strong, then it's very easy to identify with it. It's only when body becomes weak, then one may start thinking that am I really this body? Because I was not like this before. But when body is strong, functioning properly, there is no constipation, indigestion, and then you feel like you are the body. You don't think that you are going to die or become old. This happens to other people, not to me. So there is a lot of pride inside. So this is called asadgraha. This is false, because this is not reality. And the reality comes out as you get older and you cannot digest properly, you have joint pains, cannot walk, start limping, don't have good sleep, all kinds of difficulties start bothering you. So basically there is suffering in the babyhood, suffering in the youth, then you get old, you suffer. This is the story of life. So Sri Vishnu Chakriti says Ajnanam Darshayati, that he shows the ignorance. Bhutaihi Panchbhir Arabdha, body is made of the Panch Bhutas, 5 elements. Dehasya Svato Anyatvam Spashtameva. He says it's very clear that body is different from us now. We are not the body because it is growing. So how can it be us? But Tatreva Aham Mamaiti Matim Karoti. But this idea of I am the body, this is my body, is very deep and very much attached. Asadgrahaya asadvastu eva granati nantu sat. Therefore we accept only the false goals, false ideas, false objects, not the reality, not the truth. Tadartham kurte karma yadbaddho yati sansritim yona yati dadat klesham avidya karma bandhana. And then this body, which gives us all types of miseries, he works for the sake of this body. So tadartham kurute karma. For the sake of body only we are working, right? We want house for the body, we want food for the body, we want some other enjoyment for the body. So always for the sake of body. Kurvan kshatvalikani kaya kasyana vallabha. It's always doing velika, problems to us, this body, yet we are very attached to it. We never give up the idea. So that is being said. Yadbaddho yati sansritim. And bound to this, we go through this sansriti, this cycle of birth and death. Yo niyati dadat klesham avidya karma. So always following this as if bound by the thread of karma and ignorance. They are binding us. So wherever we go, we get a body. We always remain somebody. We are never nobody. Because wherever you go, one body is waiting for you. And then you do some work in that, and then you leave that body, and wherever you go, you get another body. So body is following you, bound by your karma. So this human body is very rare, because in this you can get out of this body business. This is the only body which has this facility. Yad yad asadbhipati punay shishnodara kritodhyamaihi astitoram tejantus tamo vishati purvavat. So he performs all types of improper acts because he has the association of the people Sishnodara Kritodhyamaihi, that even if you take to good path, Sadvipati, suppose you are somehow following a proper path, then you get into association of people who are very much attached to the two things which are problematic. One is the tongue, other is the genitals. So if you see the life of materialistic people, then these are the two important things for them. You can go on internet, it's full of this only. Food and sex. And everybody is just crazy after this. So they are working only for this. It says Krita Udyamai. Udyam means effort, endeavor, hard labor. Everybody is just working for this. And then what happens? Astito ramte jantus tamo visati. So being situated in their association, then he develops also attachment to them, follows them, and again falls into the same trap. First of all, it is very difficult for someone to come out of this. Everybody thinks this is the life. If you are not enjoying food, if you are not enjoying sex, then what are you doing? Then you are useless. So this is set up very much right from the beginning in the mind of people now. And they cannot imagine life without it. That you can actually eat simply and avoid sex. It's not necessary. Now it has been made compulsory. So much philosophy behind psychology. Freud has done a very great service to humanity. That now you can have unrestricted sex. And if you don't have it, then you will have some problem in your head. So he says that this will lead you to again another birth. Punarapi maranam, punarapi jananam, punarapi janani jathadaya sayanam. So die again, birth again, takes again sleep in the womb of the mother. This is the story. In short. So tadartham dehartham yadyena karmana baddha yaddeha jivaya klesham narkadi dukkham dadati dadadatum anuyati avidya karmanam yada. So he says that people are just performing their karma for the sake of the body. So actually it's amazing that we work only for the body and nothing for the soul. No one even thinks even 5 minutes a day. What about me? The person inside. So this body which is all the time giving us misery, we are working for it. What can be more stupid than this? Foolish. The body which is all the time giving me trouble, I work only for that. And ultimately I have to give it up. So yodeha klesham dadati tamev pap karmana api pushyati. Say that the body which is giving me pain, he feeds this body by performing sinful acts. So this is the foolishness. This is the madhyam. This is the job of a mudha. And purvat yatna deha avritya. Then he again falls down. Falls down means like before he is going to get a yatna body. Remember, he says when the time for death, then the Yamaraj Dutas come. They take out the subtle body, cover it with one misery body, and then they take you to hell, you suffer. Iti purvak prakarena narakam visati. Yad asadbhirityani. So yadi asadbhi pathikam. So if you follow the asat path, then this is what happens. Then he has made one sloka that if you don't follow the asat path, you can also follow the sat path. So what is the sat path? He says, Yadi sadbhi pati punah Krishna seva kritodyamaihi astitoram te jantuhu Krishnam prapnoti purvat. He says, but if one associates with people who are engaged in the service of Krishna and follow the path of these holy people, then he will have astha in the path of devotion and he will be on this bhakti marg. And astito ramte jantu Krishnam prapnati. So he will enjoy performing devotional service and then he will attain Krishna like before. Like before means as he remembered in the womb. Iti chalabhyate atra purvat iti purvat bhakta jivat. So like before means like it was described in the life of the other jiva who remembered Krishna. So basically there are two possibilities in this human life. One is that we can get out of the material world by performing devotion. which happens by associating with the devotees. And the other is that we can associate with non-devotees and remain in the material world and take birth again and suffer and continue the cycle. So it is up to us whether we want to stop this cycle or we want to have the ride again and again. So that is basically the teaching which is given here. So we'll stop here and talks more. Problems in human life. Basically it talks about association. What is important thing which is being described in the upcoming verses, actually even in this one, is that a person's life depends on association. If the association is bad, then he or she is ruined. If the association is good, then there is upliftment. So it is very important that at any cost we avoid bad association and have good association. In Shastra there is so much talk of association. So give up dussanga, there's dussanga, bhaj sadhu sangha. So do sadhu sangha, holy association, and give up dussanga, because it's just like water. The river water is drinkable, but it goes into the ocean, cannot drink it. Why? Because of the association. But the same water, if it is uplifted from there, it can again becomes drinkable by the power of the sun. Some tapasya, right? That is also tapasya. So our life takes a direction on the basis of our association. So he is going to talk about bad association. What is the outcome of bad association? That we will read tomorrow. Any comment, question? Satisfied?
So you mentioned that, or it was mentioned in the text, that one becomes a rishi by praying in the womb, right? That means one becomes self-realized in the
Yes.
womb?
Yes.
Okay. There's just one question that hangs over all this discussion, which I don't know if it really should come in, and that is, what about abortion?
What about abortion?
You know, there is all this description of the child in the womb. Now there are hundreds of thousands or even more abortions every year or month, whatever.
Yeah, that is
So
also nice.
what happens really, you know, because that usually they always say it takes place before the child becomes conscious, right?
7 months.
Mm. So what happens to that person or fetus or whatever?
And another birth.
He has to wait for another suitable parents, or
Yeah. Yeah, everybody has to wait.
and what is the experience? I mean, there's a karmic background to it, isn't it?
Yes.
There is. And all those people who are doing this, they also have to go through like this.
That is the just this
That's
is
why
the
they're
karmic
happening
background.
more and more.
That means the doctor who does it, or the mother who allows it to be done, or
Both.
whoever is involved.
Yeah, both. Anybody who is part of any sinful activity has to get the reaction from it.
Okay. So then my other question is, when I was all,
Hmm?
Also the father.
Anyone who is part in it.
so it was said, that the baby just is just surrounded by misery and experiences only misery. But we also see that so much affection is given, especially to babies.
Then they don't suffer. I mean, this is one typical description. It's not that everybody is like that. I already said that. Everybody is not bitten by mosquitoes. If you are born in a good, well-to-do family, then we have arrangement for no mosquitoes, no bad bugs.
So let's say when the person has become a rishi, self-realized in the womb, isn't it generally that he also takes birth into a very harmonious,
Yeah.
caring
Natural.
situation?
Yeah, yes. Suchinam Srimatam Gehe.
Okay. And then your last point here, that at any cost one has to associate with devotees. This really calls for a definition of who is really a devotee. Because at what point can you call somebody a devotee? Like there's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, anyone who chants the holy names once is a devotee.
Well, at least one who has made a resolve that I want to serve Krishna and I don't want to enjoy just material life which results in suffering. At least we should associate with such people.
And then there is the mention in 9th
There are
chapter
different levels of that.
So what about the devotee who is, like 9th chapter Bhagavad Gita, acting in an abominable way and still to be seen as a sadhu?
That is not, he's not saying that you associate with him.
So even if somebody is a devotee by some definition, it still remains, we still have to see whether that association is beneficial.
Yeah, you have to see whether how you get idea of association is that it influences us. So if somebody is not serious about it, then this will also influence you. And of course, best is to associate with somebody who is superior to you on this path, so that you get benefit. But at least the person should be serious and sincere about the process. If he is not sincere or serious, then it will also influence you.
And that being serious is also leaves also a lot of, it's also a big space to.
Yeah, of course. It's a big space and something very subjective.
So can it also be seen like this, that Krishna makes the arrangement of
Whatever he
with
is
whom
doing,
we associate or not
whatever
associate?
he is doing, that we have no control over it. The question here is that what we can do. That's all the talk.
Mhm.
Ultimately he is doing, he is arranging, he is giving us the association, he is giving us the knowledge. But he also wants us to participate in it. And that is the meaning of studying and hearing. So under any circumstances we have to make certain decisions in our life. So we should be knowledgeable for that. What is good for me, what is favorable for my upliftment, for my advancement, and what is an obstacle. So I should decide accordingly. That is the meaning. Because if I don't know, then I make improper decisions. We all have to make decisions ourselves in our life.
So then the free will thing becomes a problem again.
Yeah, you call it free will or any will, but everyone is taking decision or not. So and our decisions are influenced by the amount of knowledge we have. Right?
Mm.
So but better hear and have knowledge so that we can take better decisions in our life. So you can improve your free will.
But sometimes we see that even perfected devotees, or at least very advanced devotees, act in a manner that is beyond our means to really understand.
So if we cannot understand, we cannot understand.
Or it looks even, but how is it possible that such a person can do such a thing?
Yeah, so everything is not within our grasp. Some things we just cannot comprehend.
Okay, so then what do you do in such a situation? Like there is this saying, when Lord Nityananda goes to the liquor shop, one should not consider him a drunkard or something like that.
Yeah, so that's what you do if you know that this person is very advanced, he is doing something which is causing some trouble in your mind, then best is just avoid thinking about it. And say that I don't know the meaning behind it, but I don't want to analyze it and get into any wrong conclusions. So just leave it.
And continue associating if the association is available.
If that is helping you, the association is helping you, then yes. But if it is,
How do you I'm sorry.
yeah, but if it is causing you disturbance, then better so stop that.
So how do we really know whether it's beneficial? Because you cannot always see it immediately.
Well, if it inspires you in your path, then it is beneficial. If you feel inspired, and if by seeing this you become confused or dejected, then obviously that's not good. It's very simple. If you become enthusiastic by associating and say, yes, this is so nice, you feel like energy to follow your practice, your service, and that is good association. But if it gives some confusion in the mind, misconceptions, cannot decide properly, casts doubts even in your own practice, then that's not good.
You were speaking about suffering, and this material body is just pure suffering, and we're just working for this material body. And I just suddenly thought of how in the Bhagavad Gita it says that 4 types of people come to Krishna. The first one is somebody who's suffering materially. So I would like to understand a bit the role of suffering in bringing somebody to a spiritual understanding. And the 4 steps in the Bhagavad Gita, are they progressive?
Well, the role of suffering is that if you suffer, then you try to find a solution for it. Right? Because nobody likes suffering. And there are 2 ways to find a solution. One is material, another is spiritual. Yes, you look for material solutions. You go to a doctor if you are suffering, or you go to a psychotherapist. You find some relaxation, go to a bar, watch a movie, some different ways. These are all material ways. Other is that you meet divine people and you go to temple, you pray, you think, well, it's happening because of my karma. I want blessings of the Lord. So this is how it brings you to the proper path, and then you may here, there, associate, you get good association, and then you can improve from it. So that is the role of suffering.
And is the purpose of suffering is to help you to understand that there's no shelter, there's no solution in material, and to seek beyond that and then reach the spiritual.
Yeah, because you have to, if you analyze deeply, then you try to figure out that what is causing this suffering. So why am I suffering? So that is because of ajnana, ignorance. So then what is the solution? Knowledge. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of me and ignorance of Krishna. Right? So then I should get that knowledge, and that is the bhakti. So that's how it inspires or impels you towards this process.
What helps the person? What is it in the suffering and trying to find solutions? What is it in the person that enables them to go to the path of spiritual knowledge?
That happens by the grace of the Lord.
By the grace, that only.
It's not by one's own self, one will only think of material solutions. Go for a panchkarma or some other treatment. It is only by the grace of the Lord that one meets a saintly person. Yadrichya.
So again it comes to the point that people will continue to go through the process of suffering, of looking for spiritual solutions until Krishna decides, okay, now it's time for this one to have some spiritual solution. And that is purely by grace.
That is only by grace.
How do you earn that grace? How does somebody in that situation earn that grace?
Well, to begin with, it's only by without any cause. It's causeless.
Causeless.
But as I said, that once you have it and you hear and you understand, then you can also bring in your effort. When you first came to spiritual path, when it happened, it's not that you exactly planned that this is what I'm going to do, I will go there, I will read Bhagavad-gita only. You happened to meet, you didn't know much. It's just that later on you discovered all this. But once you have discovered, now you can also make decisions and take the proper action. But the first point is purely by grace. It's not possible by any means. Because this association is not an outcome of any material karma, that is the point. This association is transcendental and it is not a result of any material action. Because material actions only lead to material results. And association with a devotee, this sadhu sangha, satsanga, is not material. And if it is not material, then it cannot be the outcome of any of my material acts, whether good or bad. Although sometimes it may appear like that I did this and then it happened. But it is not. So that's why it is called causeless. Yadrichya.
I have a question in connection with yesterday's class also. You were saying at the end that buddhi takes one across karma.
Yes.
That means good intelligence.
Of course.
Because demons are also very intelligent. Duryodhana was also very intelligent.
Yes.
The demons here on Yakashipu. So it can also take you to hell.
Yeah, if it is polluted by material desires.
So that buddhi that takes you across karma is sattvic?
Well, ultimately sattvic is good also, but ultimately it has to be devotional.
So it has to be an intelligence given by Krishna.
Yeah. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupi antite.
So even sattvic buddhi.
Sattvic will bring you to sattvic level. And that is a doorway to look up. Even there has to be some input which is beyond sattva. To go out of these gunas, to become free from karma. So even when it is said that sattva leads to liberation, that means that it makes one ready to understand things properly. But it by itself is not capable of getting you out of it.
So like somebody who has sattvic buddhi becomes a philosopher, these categories?
Philosopher, or he can be meditator, peaceful, reclusive.
He's definitely interested in some spiritual path
Maybe he
or
likes
practice.
nature more than being in the city.
Mm.
Satya.
I would like to go back to the question I just asked. Because if you say it's just purely by grace, you see some have and some don't have, right? So logically you would think, well, actually, if some have and some don't have, then there is a choice being made. How do you explain to somebody that it's actually causeless, that there is no choice? Or
Because causeless cannot be explained, that is the whole idea. If you can explain it, then there is a cause. Whenever you explain things, you explain with cause and effect relationship. The whole idea of causeless is that it has no explanation.
can you take a step backwards to the point that this is the Lord's Leela?
And that's the meaning of causeless.
Okay.
Leela means causeless. Karma has a cause. And Leela means it is causeless. You cannot say why Krishna is doing this. He should have done like this. So it's Leela. So he gives mercy to somebody, then you cannot say, well, why he gave to him and not to me and not to somebody else. Cannot explain. Even he cannot say it. That is the meaning of free will. Otherwise, why say free? Then it is conditioned. Like here in the material world, nobody has free will. They are all conditioned, so you can actually understand it. And Krishna is actually free. He is the only one who has free will. And because it is free, then how do you explain?
Yes.
If there is a fly flying in this room, and suppose this fly is actually really free, then how do you know which way it is going to fly next second? Of course, if you understand the gunas and this, you can still say that the fly will go this way. But imagine that it is totally free, then it takes a left turn or right turn, and you ask, why did she take a left turn? There is no explanation. So in the conditioned state you can explain, but there is always a reason behind it. But when you go beyond the conditioned state, then what is the explanation?
What is it? Yeah. Just
Because things there are happening. Of course, there are also explanations at that level, and they happen out of love. It's not frivolous. Being free from conditioning does not mean frivolous, but it does not follow the rules of this material world. And they say that love is beyond law. There are no rules between war and love. But it also has its own rules. It's not that love is just haphazard. But when we say it has no rules, means it doesn't have the normal rules. It has its own rules. And those rules cannot be put under the purview of material mind. Okay, I will go on. Happy Christmas to everybody.
India is becoming Christmas satisfaction. Your Christmas present.